Well, those are some of the reasons why there's been such a terrific swing to the Labour Party in the countryside as well as in the towns in the last week or so. All kinds of people have offered their support and help. People like Humphrey Lyttelton, who in this election is blowing our trumpet.
I first began supporting the Labour Party when it took its stand over Suez. Since then, it has consistently spoken up for people like me who regard such affairs as Cyprus, Hola Camp, Nyasaland as matters of national shame and disgrace. And that's reason enough for me to give it my full support.
Jill Balkan, the actress, had this to say.
As the mother of 2 young children, I think that the most important issue at the moment for all of us is the bomb. And I'm hoping that the Labour Party will make a most tremendous drive to achieve nuclear disarmament.
Professor Eyre of Oxford and the Brains Trust had this to say.
Everyone ought to have the chance, which not all are getting now, of developing their talents to the best advantage. As things are, the children of poorer parents, and especially those who failed the 11+ examination, are not getting enough done for them. This is the strong point in favour of the Labour idea of comprehensive schools.
Next, I went to see Richie Calder.
I am voting Labour because I want to see a government in power which is aware of the realities of a changing world. We want to see science applied to the benefits of all mankind and to the reduction of poverty and misery throughout the whole world.
Sir Compton Mackenzie invited me to see him in his house in Edinburgh.
Throughout my life, the Tories have never learnt anything from experience. They've never been able to grasp cause and effect. And now, as I approach advanced old age, I feel in my mind and cannot be at the mercy of these boneheads.
He's quite right, you know. The Tories never do learn from experience, particularly not in colonial affairs. As John Osborne said on Monday, places have become the names of crimes: Suez, Cyprus, Nyasaland and Hola. Here now, from Cardiff, is James Callaghan.
One of the tragedies of the last few years is that Africans have been losing confidence in Britain. And one of the reasons why they've done so is because of what's happened at the Hola prison camp. Let me tell you about it. One day last March, the British government in this colony, because it is a British colony, issued a statement telling us that 11 prisoners who were Mau Mau suspects had died suddenly after drinking from a water cart. The implication was that the water was tainted, and it wasn't until the inquest was held that the real truth came out. These men had been clubbed to death by their warders in the full sight of the officer in charge of the prison. Lacerated brains, fractured skulls, broken forearms, broken legs, bruised lungs. 11 of them died, clubbed to death in cold blood. Why? Because they staged a sit-down strike and refused to dig an irrigation canal. They had an inquiry afterwards. It showed that these African prisoners had made no attempt to rebel. There had been no attempt at a breakout, but they were clubbed to death. Now, this, you know, is causing tremendous repercussions in Africa. They say, what's happened to British justice? Is it reserved for white men only? Mr. Lennox Boyd told the House, he's the Colonial Secretary, told the House that Hola was a tragedy. It was more, and the Africans know it. It was a crime. Some of us were very incensed because we've constantly told Mr. Lennox Boyd that conditions in these camps are not right. We've asked him to have an official inquiry. Always he refused. Well, he's still in office. It's his administration which is responsible for what has taken place. He's still there. If Mr. Attlee had been Prime Minister, he would have quickly told Mr. Lennox Boyd what he ought to do. But we've got Mr. Macmillan there now, and his standards are different.
This one incident has shaken the confidence of thousands of Conservatives in the integrity of their own government. Now we go north, we go to Manchester, we join Hugh Gaitskell.
Last Monday I was in Newcastle, and I talked to you from there about the problem of jobs and how people were worrying about it up there. Well, since then, I've been in Scotland and down through Carlisle to Lancashire, and it's pretty much the same story. In Scotland, there's twice as much unemployment as there is in the country generally. And naturally, people are concerned because, in particular, it doesn't seem to be going down. And I think the answer is just the same. It is that we must, first of all, get full employment generally, and then it'll be possible to steer new enterprises and firms into the areas where pockets of unemployment remain. And at the same time, we've got to induce firms to go into these areas by building for them, by offering them loans and grants, and encouraging the local authorities to develop the services that are necessary. Well, the election is hotting up. Personally, I'm quite glad that it is. I think it ought to be lively. I think it's a thing that people ought to care about, and I hope that it will be a very high poll on October the 8th. The fur is flying, and some personal attacks are being made, some upon me. Well, I don't complain about that. It's all part of the show. But I don't, as a matter of fact, intend to reply to them, because I think that most people nowadays are more interested in solid argument about policies and facts than they are in personalities. But there's one thing I'd like to do, and that is to say something about my 1951 budget. You'll have heard a good deal about it from the Tories lately, and they say that I put up taxation. It's quite true, I did. But I'd like you to know why. It was a very difficult year during the Korean War, during which we decided, too, that it was so dangerous that we had to rearm, we had to step up our defense expenditure quickly and by a substantial amount. And I had to find about 400 million or more in 1 year. And of course, I had to put up taxation. It was unpopular, it wasn't easy, it wasn't nice, but we had to do it. It was our duty, and personally, I think we were right. I've been thinking lately about the election and the central issue of it, and how one could put it best, away from the hustings. And I think I'd like to say this. We really all agree, or we claim at any rate, that we can double our standard of living in 25 years, that we can increase output and we can all be better off. The question really is what we're going to do with the extra that comes along. And we in the Labour Party say that the first call on this must be to help those suffering from hardship and distress now. That's what we stand for. The other day, in one of these programs, a friend of ours described the Labour Party as being the party of conscience and reform. I like that. That's what it is.
2 practical points. We still need more workers in our committee rooms. If you haven't already volunteered, please come along. And secondly, we desperately need more cars on polling day. The Tories, as you know, took advantage of their majority to change the law, hoping it would give them an advantage with the old and the sick who couldn't get to the polls by themselves. So we need more helpers now and cars on polling day. And finally, as always, a question on your behalf to the Tories.
Will the Conservatives give a pledge before polling day that if elected, there will be no further increase in rents?
That was an election broadcast on behalf of the Labour Party.